If I were to rate this on packaging alone, it would get a 2 out of 5. That's substandard, Daniel Smith. So it's a good thing that 1. The card insert is attractive, and 2. The product itself is fine. Orange, green, and purple? As a Halloween hound, I could not get this set. Receiving new art goodies is such a rush. The crinkling of plastic, the scrape of cardboard, if there had been a box, that is, and the sound of paint tubes tumbling to my artboard. It's on par with birthdays and anniversaries, needing only a popping cork to complete the ASMR fantasy. That's a nail file, by the way, not a boogeyman in the closet. The pouring process feels equal parts enjoyable and stressful. I love watching the ooze of paint as it fills the pan, but I've got to confess, I made a mess with the purple, all outside of frame. The cap was filled with paint and was going to be a disaster if I just put it back on. But since I didn't want the hassle of salvaging it, I just cleaned it out while bemoaning the waste of good paint. Surprisingly, my fingers came out mostly unstained. Of course, not mentioning it at all was an option, but this channel is about sharing the arting experience. So if there's a trick to avoid the cap full of paint thing, please share it. And if there isn't, we can take comfort in the idea that it happens to everyone. On to trying these babies out. I used my B watercolor sketchbook for this. I should do better at filling these things. This is my first B brand, but my third watercolor sketchbook overall, since I began painting in 2017. This one in particular, with nice 100% cotton paper, I sometimes hesitate to work in. Not because I don't like it. It's because I do. There was a time when I didn't know when or if I'd get a hold of art supplies, so I suppose there's an over-frugal mindset at play. An ever-present, you don't want to waste it mentality, which is why I revel when my art supply security is at comfortable levels while still telling myself, save it for something better. Which really doesn't work, right? I mean, art doesn't spring fully formed like Athena from Zeus's forehead. At least not for me. It's a process of idea to sketch to paint. And if it doesn't work, you do it over again. Not to mention the whole experimentation angle. What I'm saying is, yeah, thrift is a good thing. But being too sparing with your materials can cost you in not only your output, but also your skill level and even your confidence and motivation to create. This porcelain palette has quickly become one of my favorite art things. Sure, any old plate would do, but look at it. It's shaped like a flower. It's got 7 wells and it's the perfect size. Look, I don't consider myself particularly pessimistic, but worst case scenarios do pop up in my head from time to time. You know, like when you imagine the zombie apocalypse and have to decide which people would be assets to your survival group and which you'd have to maim to slow down the undead horde. So when I imagine this palette falling to the floor under a pile of pens, brushes, and bottles, I have to tell myself, it's okay. He totally rolled under that dumpster. If I ink first, I tend to go overboard with it. That's why I've been doing it this way. Paint first, then ink. It forces me to be more judicious with the line work. That's not to say I don't like the line and wash technique, because I do. But for a while now, I've been trying to improve my painting more so than my drawing. But I might switch that around later. That purple head reminds me that there is an influential art book I forgot to mention in the previous video, and that's How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way, a fun illustrated title from the 1980s. I recall being struck by the use of the 8.5 heads proportions, since I was already using that standard thanks to Andrew Loomis's books published in the 1940s. No, I wasn't alive then. I'm not that old. Since I felt I hadn't given a fair showing of these paints, I went on to swatch them as well. Because, in my opinion, you can never have too much orange, green, and purple. I'm happy to share this pricey paints in a cheap cellophane baggie experience. A big thanks to all who have liked, shared, subscribed, or commented on these videos. It motivates me to keep creating. In gaming terminology, it refills my mana bar. And it tells YouTube that I'm doing something right.